So it's going to be a short video today. This is something that, I've just gotten into knife making a little bit over the last couple of months, and I don't know a lot about the craft yet, but I'm learning. And one thing that I've learned is that if you want to put an edge on a knife, you can't just think like, oh, I'll just, I'll make a knife and then I'll watch a couple of videos and I'll figure out how to put an edge on the knife and I'll do a knife edge, because how hard can it be to put an edge on a knife, sharpen it up? Turns out it's pretty hard. So folks who make their living sharpening tools or sharpening knives, hats off to you. But what I'm going to do today, here's a knife that I forged. It's no particular style of knife. It's just kind of something that I had some rebar and I did some forging work on it, and this just kind of emerged. I did not do a video on this. This is kind of while I was experimenting and before I started doing any videos. I had fun making it. I noticed as I was working on it that it was a piece of rebar that was made in Japan. And so they had actually stamped it Japan. So I thought that was kind of cool. I figured I'd leave that on there and kind of be like, hey, guess what? I made a knife with real Japanese steel. Never mind that it was rebar. But anyway, I never did get a very good edge on it, and I'm changing that. I'm trying to learn without going out and spending a whole bunch of money on one of those really cool like upright belt sander, disc sander combination setups or whatever that can cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I figured, why don't I use what I have, which is I have a cheapy belt sander, and then I went out today and I got a better vise than the one I had was not very big. So I got a pretty decent size vise at least. We'll see how it holds up. I might do a review on this guy, a couple, 3 months down the road. Anyway, I saw this really neat trick, and I had this thought before, a belt sander like this might cost you 30, 40 bucks. Couldn't you use this belt sander as like, if there was a way to kind of clamp it in place? Maybe you could build well, somebody showed me this. Open that up wide enough. And look at that. Sander fits right in there. Now, if you don't want to break your sander, it's best to use some type of cloth on both sides. I'm going to do that, but I just didn't have it with me at the moment, so I wanted to show you kind of the idea here. Then I'll set things up and kind of go to the next level. But pretty neat, huh? I like it. So to protect my sander, I'm just going to use, this is an old sweatshirt that's it's been pretty beat up and whatever. And really it just needs to sit in here and cover the teeth so they're not, there we go. So they're not making, and maybe provide a little cushion there so they're not making direct contact with the sides of the sander. And then the other thing is that, of course, in order to make this work properly, you're going to need the type of sander that has a trigger that can be locked down or locked in the on position. So I'm going to do that first. So then essentially what I'm doing here is I'm using the Paracord as my on-off switch. Now, a word to the wise here. You don't want to use an article of clothing or something that you plan to wear again, because you're going to have a ton of little metal shavings and stuff in it. I am going to actually turn this the other way out, just in case I do wind up wearing this again. Now, watch when you're, obviously watch a little bit as you're tightening down. It's real easy, especially with a big vise, to get things tightened too much, and you don't want to wind up breaking your sander. So. can see there, it's coming along. That actually goes pretty quick. The first time I saw somebody do this, I noticed that they weren't wearing gloves, and it really bothered me because I thought, well, you know, what if you should wear gloves? That's kind of my thought. Like, I don't know exactly what's going to go wrong, but if something goes wrong, you want to be wearing gloves. But I realized there's actually a really good reason. If you wear gloves, you aren't going to be able to tell as the blade is heating up. If you wear maybe some thinner gloves or something, there are gloves that you can use that'll probably allow you a little bit of that sensation, but I could really, really feel it because I'm using just my fingers to do this. I'm not going to recommend to you what you should do. Your fingers are your responsibility, and you need to protect yourself and all the rest of your body parts when you're working with power tools. But I will say that for me, I can totally see why a person would use just bare hands when they're working on this. Obviously, if you heat that blade up too much, you can actually wind up ruining the temper or ruining the hardening of the steel. So makes sense to me now why people use just their fingers, because you can feel that steel heating up and get a sense of, okay, you know, we're getting up probably 100, 150 degrees here. You know, I'm going to back off, let it cool a little bit, maybe come back to the other side and so on. I think that this is a good way for somebody like me, at least at my level of knowledge and skill, to kind of get my feet wet in the idea of using power tools to put an edge on or to profile a knife blade. And it allows me the ability to do that without having to go out and spend a lot of money on a piece of equipment that, you know, maybe in the long run I find out that I'm not going to use that piece of equipment. Maybe I'll use a different, you know, there are just about as many setups for putting an edge on a blade as there are people putting edges on blades. But anyway, I have to say this is actually working a lot better, a lot faster than I expected. And I'm already getting a pretty good edge on there. So a lot more work to do, but moving in the right direction. One last thing, this is I think this is specifically a belt that's designed for wood. It's not designed for metal. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is 120. It may even be a higher grit than that, and it's a little bit worn, which kind of allows me to jump in and do a little bit of work without worrying about removing too much material right away. This is a much more aggressive grit, the 180, 80 versus probably 120 and really pretty much worn out. But this is 80 grit. I mean, this is going to take a lot of material real fast. So I'm going to try all these different things, and probably not tonight. It's not going to wind up in this video, but you'll see it in others. Here's the box. This is actually designed for, wood, metal, or fiberglass, whereas these brown ones are specifically designed for wood finishing. So, I think you're going to burn through this a lot faster. So, I want to know what you think. I know there's a couple other videos out there and some blogs and stuff that talk about these kind of hacks, just using the tools that you do have to set something up that'll work when you maybe don't have exactly the right tool for the job. Let me know what you think if you've tried something similar to this. Maybe there are some risks involved in this. I can think of some reasons why you'd want to be real careful how you did this. If I wanted to set this upright, a lot of guys they'll have an upright belt and they'll be working on that, and they'll use their knife, this way, and then you've got kind of a table underneath that supports it, so the grinding they're doing is vertical, and that's maybe safer. This thing, if something catches, does it fly back and hit you? There's a whole lot of different considerations with this. Anyway, let me know what you think, and if you liked the video, if you found it useful, give me a thumbs up, give me a like. So there it is. I hope that's in focus for you. Definitely got a better edge on there than when I started, and it didn't take long to get there. More work to be done, but I just wanted to give you a sense of how this new system is working. I got into this hobby by looking at what other people were doing online and seeing that, guy doesn't have to go out and spend $1,000, $2,000 to get set up. You can easily start out with probably what most of you have in your own shop, or maybe go out and spend, $50 on an item, $100 here, $50 there, and get to the point where you can do, maybe a lot more than you might think you could. Along the way, you're learning new skills. There isn't necessarily a right way or a wrong way. It's what works for you. And for me, at my skill level, I'm maybe not ready to spend $500 on a setup, or $300 or $1,000 on a setup. Maybe I want to just get my feet wet with what I've got, and then armed with a little bit more information, I can go in and, you know, when the time is right, spend a little bit more to get exactly the right setup or the right tool that I need. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.